Daenerys. Wings shadowed her fever dreams. "You don't want to wake the dragon, do you?" She was walking down a long hall beneath high stone arches. She could not look behind her, must not look behind her. There was a door ahead of her, tiny with distance, but even from afar she saw it was painted red. She walked faster and her bare feet left bloody footprints on the stone. "You don't want to wake the dragon, do you?" She saw sunlight on the Dothraki Sea, the living plain, rich with the smells of earth and death. Wind stirred the grasses and they rippled like water. Drogo held her in strong arms, and his hand stroked her sex and opened her, and woke that sweet wetness that was his alone, and the stars smiled down on them, stars in a daylight sky. "Home," she whispered as he entered her and filled her with his seed. But suddenly the stars were gone, and across the blue sky swept the great wings, and the world took flame. "Don't want to wake the dragon, do you?" Ser Jorah's face was drawn and sorrowful. "Rhaegar was the last dragon," he told her. He warmed translucent hands over a glowing brazier where the stone eggs smouldered red as coals. One moment he was there, and the next he was fading, his flesh colourless, less substantial than the wind. "The last dragon," he whispered, thin as a wisp, and was gone. She left the dark behind her, and the red door seemed farther away than ever. "Don't want to wake the dragon, do you?" Viserys stood before her, screaming. "The dragon does not beg, slut. You do not command the dragon. I am the dragon, and I will be crowned." The molten gold trickled down his face like wax, burning deep channels in his flesh. "I am the dragon, and I will be crowned," he shrieked, and his fingers snapped like snakes, biting at her nipples, pinching, twisting, even as his eyes burst and ran like jelly down seared and blackened cheeks. "Don't want to wake the dragon." The red door was so far ahead of her, and she could feel the icy breath behind, sweeping up on her. If it caught her, she would die a death that was more than death, howling alone, forever in the darkness. She began to run. "Don't want to wake the dragon." She could feel the heat inside her, a terrible burning in her womb. Her son was tall and proud, with Drogo's copper skin and her own silver-coloured hair, violet eyes shaped like almonds. And he smiled for her and began to lift his hand toward hers, but when he opened his mouth the fire poured out. She saw his heart burning through his chest, and in an instant he was gone, consumed like a moth by a candle, turned to ash. She wept for her child, the promise of a sweet mouth on her breast, but her tears turned to steam as they touched her skin. Want to wake the dragon. Ghosts lined the hallway, dressed in the faded raiment of kings. In their hands were swords of pale fire. They had hair of silver and hair of gold and hair of platinum white, and their eyes were opal and amethyst, tourmaline and jade. "Faster!" they cried. "Faster, faster!" She raced, her feet melting the stone wherever they touched. "Faster!" the ghosts cried as one, and she screamed and threw herself forward. A great knife of pain ripped down her back, and she felt her skin tear open, and smelled the stench of burning blood, and saw the shadow of wings, and Daenerys Targaryen flew. "Wake the dragon." The door loomed before her, the red door, so close, the hall was a blur round her, the cold receding behind. And now the stone was gone, and she flew across the Dothraki Sea, higher and higher, the green rippling beneath, and all that lived and breathed fled in terror from the shadow of her wings. She could smell home. She could see it. There, just beyond the door, green fields and great stone houses, and arms to keep her warm. There. She threw open the door. The dragon. And saw her brother Rhaegar, mounted on a stallion as black as his armour. Fire glimmered red through the narrow slit of his helm. "The last dragon," Ser Jorah's voice whispered faintly. "The last, the last." Dany lifted his polished black visor. The face within was her own. After that, for a long time, there was only the pain, the fire within her, and the whisperings of stars. She woke to the taste of ashes. "No," she moaned. "No, please." Khaleesi? Jikwi hovered over her, a frightened doe. The tent was drenched in shadow, still and close. Flakes of ash drifted up from a brazier, and Dany followed them with her eyes through the smoke hole above. Flying, she thought. I had wings. I was flying. But it was only a dream. Help me, she whispered, struggling to rise. Bring me. Her voice was raw as a wound, and she could not think what she wanted. Why did she hurt so much? It was as if her body had been torn to pieces and remade from the scraps. I want... Yes, Khaleesi. Quick as that, Jikwi was gone, bolting from the tent, shouting. Dany needed... something. Someone. What? It was important, she knew. It was the only thing in the world that mattered. She rolled onto her side and got an elbow under her, fighting the blanket tangled about her legs. It was so hard to move. The world swam dizzily. I have to... They found her on the carpet, crawling toward her dragon eggs. Ser Jorah Mormont lifted her in his arms and carried her back to her sleeping silks, where she struggled feebly against him. Over his shoulder she saw the 3 handmaids, Jogo with his little wisp of a moustache, and the flat, broad face of Mirri Maz Duur. I must, she tried to tell them. I have to... Sleep, princess, Ser Jorah said. No, Dany said. Please, please. Yes. He covered her with silk, though she was burning. Sleep and grow strong again, Khaleesi. Come back to us. And then Mirri Maz Duur was there, the Magi, tipping a cup against her lips. She tasted sour milk and something else, something thick and bitter. Warm liquid ran down her chin. Somehow she swallowed. The tent grew dimmer and sleep took her again. This time she did not dream. She floated, serene and at peace, on a black sea that knew no shore. After a time, a night, a day, a year, she couldn't say, she woke again. The tent was dark, its silken walls flapping like wings when the wind gusted outside. This time Dany did not attempt to rise. Irri, she called. Jikwi, Doria. They were there at once. My throat is dry, she said. So dry. And they brought her water. It was warm and flat, yet Dany drank it eagerly and sent Jikwi for more. Irri dampened a soft cloth and stroked her brow. I have been sick, Dany said. The Dothraki girl nodded. How long? The cloth was soothing, but Irri seemed sad. It frightened her. Long, she whispered. When Jikwi returned with more water, Mirri Maz Duur came through with her eyes heavy from sleep. Drink, she said, lifting Dany's head to the cup once more, but this time it was only wine. Sweet, sweet wine. Dany drank and lay back, listening to the soft sound of her own breathing. She could feel the heaviness in her limbs as sleep crept in to fill her up once more. Bring me, she murmured, her voice slurred and drowsy. Bring me. I want to hold. Yes, the Magi asked. What is it you wish, Khaleesi? Bring me egg. Dragon's egg. Please. Her lashes turned to lead and she was too weary to hold them up. When she woke the 3rd time, a shaft of golden sunlight was pouring through the smoke hole of the tent, and her arms were wrapped around a dragon's egg. It was the pale one, its scales the colour of buttercream, veined with whorls of gold and bronze, and Dany could feel the heat of it. Beneath her bed silks a fine sheen of perspiration covered her bare skin. Dragon dew, she thought. Her fingers trailed lightly across the surface of the shell, tracing the wisps of gold, and deep in the stone she felt something twist and stretch in response. It did not frighten her. All her fear was gone, burned away. Dany touched her brow. Under the film of sweat her skin was cool to the touch, her fever gone. She made herself sit. There was a moment of dizziness and a deep ache between her thighs. Yet she felt strong. Her maids came running to the sound of her voice. Water, she told them. A flagon of water, cold as you can find it. And fruit, I think, dates. As you say, Khaleesi. I want Ser Jorah, she said, standing. Jikwi brought a sand-silk robe and wrapped it over her shoulders. And a warm bath and Mirri Maz Duur, and... Memory came back to her all at once, and she faltered. "Khal Drogo," she forced herself to say, watching their faces with dread. "Is he—" "The Khal lives," Irri answered quietly. Yet Dany saw a darkness in her eyes when she said the words, and no sooner had she spoken than she rushed away to fetch the water. She turned to Doria. "Tell me." I shall bring Ser Jorah," the Lysine girl said, bowing her head and fleeing the tent. Jikwi would have run as well, but Dany caught her by the wrist and held her captive. "What is it? I must know. Drogo. And my child." Why had she not remembered the child until now? "My son, Rhaego. Where is he? I want him." Her handmaid lowered her eyes. "The boy. He did not live, Khaleesi." Her voice was a frightened whisper. Dany released her wrist. "My son is dead," she thought, as Jikwi left the tent. She had known somehow. She had known since she woke the first time to Jikwi's tears. No, she'd known before she woke. Her dream came back to her, sudden and vivid, and she remembered the tall man with the copper skin and the long silver gold braid bursting into flame. She should weep, she knew. Yet her eyes were as dry as ash. She had wept in her dream, and the tears had turned to steam on her cheeks. "All the grief has been burned out of me," she told herself. She felt sad, and yet she could feel Rhaego receding from her, as if he had never been. Ser Jorah and Mirri Maz Duur entered a few moments later and found Dany standing over the other dragon's eggs, the two still in their chest. It seemed to her they felt as hot as the one she'd slept with, which was passing strange. "Ser Jorah, come here," she said. She took his hand and placed it on the black egg with the scarlet swirls. "What do you feel?" "Shell, hard as rock." The knight was wary. "Scales." "Heat?" "No, cold stone." He took his hand away. "Princess, are you well? Should you be up, weak as you are?" "Weak? I am strong, Jorah." To please him, she reclined on a pile of cushions. "Tell me how my child died." "He never lived, my princess. The women say—" He faltered, and Dany saw how the flesh hung loose on him, the way he limped when he moved. Tell me what the women say." He turned his face away. His eyes were haunted. "They say the child was—" She waited, but Ser Jorah could not say it. His face grew dark with shame. He looked half a corpse himself. "Monstrous," Mirri Maz Duur finished for him. The knight was a powerful man, yet Dany understood in that moment the Magi was stronger and crueler and infinitely more dangerous. "Twisted. I took him forth myself. He was scaled like a lizard, blind, with the stub of a tail and small leather wings like the wings of a bat. When I touched him, the flesh sloughed off the bone, and inside he was full of grave worms and the stink of corruption. He had been dead for years." Darkness, Dany thought. The terrible darkness sweeping up behind to devour her. If she looked back, she was lost. "My son was alive and strong when Ser Jorah carried me into this tent," she said. "I could feel him kicking, fighting to be born." "That may be as it may be," answered Mirri Maz Duur. "Yet the creature that came forth from your womb was as I said. Death was in that tent, Khaleesi." "Only shadows," Ser Jorah husked, but Dany could hear the doubt in his voice. "I saw Magi. I saw you alone, dancing with the shadows." "The grave casts long shadows, Iron Lord," Mirri said. "Long and dark, and in the end no light can hold them back." Ser Jorah had killed her son. Dany knew. He had done what he did for love and loyalty, yet he had carried her into a place no living man should go, and fed her baby to the darkness. He knew it too. The grey face, the hollow eyes, the limp. "The darkness, the shadows have touched you too, Ser Jorah," she told him. The knight made no reply. Dany turned to the god's wife. "You warned me that only death could pay for life. I thought you meant the horse." No, Mary Mazdur said. That was a lie you told yourself. You knew the price. Had she? Had she? If I look back, I am lost. The price was paid, Dany said. The horse, my child, Quaro, Cotho, Hago, and Kaholo. The price was paid and paid and paid. She rose from her cushions. Where is Khal Drogo? Show him to me, godwife, magi, blood mage, whatever you are. Show me Khal Drogo. Show me what I bought with my son's life. As you command, Khaleesi, the old woman said. Come, I will take you to him. Dany was weaker than she knew. Ser Jorah slipped an arm round her and helped her stand. Time enough for this later, princess, he said quietly. I would see him now, Ser Jorah. After the dimness of the tent, the world outside was blinding bright. The sun burned like molten gold, and the land was seared and empty. Her handmaids waited with fruit and wine and water, and Jogo moved close to help Ser Jorah support her. Aggo and Rakaro stood behind. The glare of the sun on sand made it hard to see more, until Dany raised her hand to shade her eyes. She saw the ashes of a fire, a few score horses milling listlessly and searching for a bite of grass, a scattering of tents and bedrolls. A small crowd of children had gathered to watch her, and beyond she glimpsed women going about their work, and withered old men staring at the flat blue sky, with tired eyes, swatting feebly at bloodflies. A count might show 100 people, no more. Where the other 40,000 had made their camp, only the wind and dust lived now. Drogo's Khalasar is gone, she said. A Khal who cannot ride is no Khal, said Jogo. The Dothraki only follow the strong, Ser Jorah said. I am sorry, my princess. There was no way to hold them. Ko Pono left first, naming himself Khal Pono, and many followed him. Jacko was not long to do the same. The rest slipped away night by night in large bands and small. There are a dozen new Khalasars on the Dothraki Sea, where once there was only Drogos. The old remain, said Aggo, the frightened, the weak, and the sick, and we who swore, we remain. They took Khal Drogo's herds, Khaleesi, Rakaro said. We were too few to stop them. It is the right of the strong to take from the weak. They took many slaves as well, the Khal's and yours, yet they left some few. Eroe? Asked Dany, remembering the frightened child she'd saved outside the city of the Lamb Men. Mago seized her, who is Khal Joko's blood rider now, said Jogo. He mounted her high and low and gave her to his Khal, and Jacko gave her to his other blood riders. They were 6. When they were done with her, they cut her throat. It was her fate, Khaleesi, said Aggo. If I look back, I am lost. It was a cruel fate, Dany said, yet not so cruel as Mago's will be. I promise you that by the old gods and the new, by the lamb god and the horse god and every god that lives, I swear it by the mother of mountains and the womb of the world, before I am done with them, Mago and Ko Jacko will plead for the mercy that they showed Eroe. The Dothraki exchanged uncertain glances. Khaleesi, the handmaid Irri explained as if to a child. Jacko is a Khal now, with 20,000 riders at his back. She lifted her head. And I am Daenerys Stormborn, Daenerys of House Targaryen, of the blood of Aegon the Conqueror, and Maegor the Cruel, and old Valyria before them. I am the dragon's daughter, and I swear to you, these men will die screaming. Now bring me to Khal Drogo. He was lying there on the red earth, staring up at the sun. A dozen bloodflies had settled on his body, though he didn't seem to feel them. Dany brushed them away and knelt beside him. His eyes were wide open, but he did not see, and she knew at once that he was blind. When she whispered his name, he did not seem to hear. The wound on his breast was as healed as it ever would be, the scar that covered it grey and red and hideous. "Why is he out here alone in the sun?" she asked them. "He seemed to like the warmth, Princess," Ser Jorah said. "His eyes follow the sun, though he doesn't see it. He can walk after a fashion. He will go anywhere you lead him, but no further. He will eat if you put food in his mouth, drink if you dribble water on his lips." Dany kissed her son and stars gently on the brow and stood to face Mirri Maz Dur. "Your spells are costly, Magie." "He lives," said Mirri Maz Dur. "You asked for life. You paid for life." "This is not life, for one who was as Drogo was. His life was laughter and meat roasting over a fire pit and a horse between his legs. His life was an arak in his hand and his bells ringing in his hair as he rode to meet an enemy. His life was his blood riders and me and the son I was to give him." Mirri Maz Dur made no reply. "When will he be as he was?" Dany demanded. "When the sun rises in the west and sets in the east," said Mirri Maz Dur. "When the seas go dry and the mountains blow in the wind like leaves. When your womb quickens again and you bear a living child. Then he will return, and not before." Dany gestured at Ser Jorah and the others. "Leave us. I would speak with this Magie alone." Mormont and the Dothraki withdrew. "You knew," Dany said when they were gone. She ached inside and out, but her fury gave her strength. "You knew what I was buying, and you knew the price, and yet you let me pay it." "It was wrong of them to burn my temple," the heavy, flat-nosed woman said placidly. "They angered the great shepherd." "This was no god's work," Dany said coldly. "If I look back, I am lost. You cheated me. You murdered the child within me." "The stallion who mounts the world will burn no cities now. His khalasar shall trample no nations into dust." "I spoke for you," she said, anguished. "I saved you." "Saved me?" the Lazarene woman spat. 3 riders had already taken me, not as a man takes a woman, but from behind as a dog takes a bitch. The 4th was in me when you rode past. How did you save me? I saw my god's house burn, where I had healed good men beyond counting. My home they burned down as well, and in the streets I saw piles of heads. I saw the head of a baker who made my bread. I saw the head of a boy who I had saved from dead-eye fever only 3 moons past. I heard children crying as riders drove them off with their whips. Tell me again what you saved." "Your life." Mirri Maz Dur laughed cruelly. "Look to your khal and see what life is worth, when all the rest is gone." Dany called out for the men of her caste and bid them take Mirri Maz Dur and bind her hand and foot, but the Magie smiled at her as they carried her off, as if they shared a secret. A word and Dany would have her head off. Yet then what would she have? A head? If life was worthless, what was death? They led Khal Drogo back to her tent, and Dany commanded them to fill a tub, and this time there was no blood in the water. She bathed him herself, washing the dirt and the dust from his arms and chest, cleaning his face with a soft cloth, soaping his long black hair and combing the knots and tangles from it until it shone again as she remembered. It was well past dark before she was done, and Dany was exhausted. She stopped for drink and food, but it was all she could do to nibble at a fig and keep down a mouthful of water. Sleep would have been a release, but she'd slept enough. Too long, in truth. She owed this night to Drogo, for all the nights that had been, and yet might be. The memory of their first ride was with her when she led him out into the darkness, for the Dothraki believed that all things of importance in a man's life must be done beneath the open sky. She told herself that there were powers stronger than hatred, and spells older and truer than any the Magie had learned in Ashai. The night was black and moonless, but overhead 1,000,000 stars burned bright. She took that for an omen. No soft blanket of grass welcomed them there, only the hard, dusty ground, bare and strewn with stones. No trees stirred in the wind, and there was no stream to soothe her fears with the gentle music of water. Dany told herself the stars would be enough. "Remember, Drogo," she whispered. "Remember our first ride together, the day we wed. Remember the night we made Rhaego, with the khalasar all around us, and your eyes on my face. Remember how cool and clean the water was in the womb of the world. Remember, my sun and stars. Remember and come back to me. The birth had left her too raw and torn to take him inside her, as she would have wanted, but Doria had taught her other ways. Dany used her hands, her mouth, her breasts. She raked him with her nails and covered him with kisses and whispered and prayed and told him stories, and by the end she'd bathed him with her tears. Yet Drogo did not feel, or speak, or rise. And when the bleak dawn broke over an empty horizon, Dany knew he was truly lost to her. "When the sun rises in the west and sets in the east," she said sadly. "When the seas go dry and mountains blow in the wind like leaves. When my womb quickens again and I bear a living child. Then you will return, my sun and stars, and not before." "Never," the darkness cried. "Never, never, never." Inside the tent, Dany found a cushion, soft silk stuffed with feathers. She clutched it to her breast as she walked out back to Drogo, to her sun and stars. "If I look back, I am lost." It hurt to even walk, and she wanted to sleep and not to dream. She knelt, kissed Drogo on the lips, and pressed the cushion down on his face.
What a plot twist. What an ending to a chapter. Dany goes through all that to bring him back, only to kill him herself.
Because she made a vegetable.
Made a vegetable. I guess you could call him Kale Drogo now.
Poor Drogo.
Or what was the baby's name?
Rhaego.
Rhaego, yes.
That just doesn't stick with you, does it?
No, it doesn't at all. This is never born.
Doesn't count.
Kind of born, but not really. I guess he was born, but the Meiji basically admits, like, yeah, I killed your son. Screw you.
Yep.
He's the stallion who was to mount the world. I saved the world a lot of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So we see the true feelings behind all of this. She wasn't just trying to be kind and helping out Khal Drogo.
It was sabotage.
But at the same time, they didn't listen at all to what she said. So either it was just inevitable, or she's terrible at what she does.
I think the first time that the first thing that she gave them, I think was genuinely, like, helpful.
Probably.
And then the blood magic was not.
No. But again, not 100% her fault either. Dany did go in there. Well, it wasn't Dany's fault either. It was actually Jorah. Jorah messed up.
Jorah had one job to do.
Yes, and he didn't do it. And he knows that. He was very shameful about it.
Yeah, he was really upset about what happened. But at the same time, like, I don't think it would have mattered if... I don't know, I mean, that was the... She said, only death can pay for life. You want life.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the horse.
But did she know that Dany would come in? Like, what would have happened if Jorah never did that? You know?
I think she knew.
You'd just been like, no, it didn't work, sorry.
No, I think... I don't know. I mean... The timing of everything is awful coincidental. Like, she's doing this whole blood magic ritual, and then as in the middle of it, all of a sudden Dany goes into labor. It's because that's what the contract was for. That was the life that was promised. So I think...
Maybe.
I think she was gonna get Rhaego regardless. Because Dany made the deal. She did the deed. She made the deal. She said, okay, do your thing.
Fair enough.
And I you know... And
the way they describe Rhaego, scaled, bat wings, Kind of sounds like he was a dragon.
Yeah.
A little imagery there.
Little dragon imagery there. Yeah, Tug.
Maybe Rhaegar wasn't the last dragon.
Well, I mean, Dany has that dream where over and over they keep talking about how Rhaegar was the last dragon, and then she takes off Rhaegar's helmet, and it's actually her.
Yeah.
And I think...
Yeah, I think at this point we know that Viserys was not the last dragon. And Dany, I mean, there's been enough hints at this point that you can tell. She's the last dragon. An immunity to heat.
I think this chapter very much... At this point, she's done the blood magic. It didn't go very well. She's lost her son.
It went awful. Let's not beat around the bush here. It went as bad as it possibly could.
Well, Mary Mazdur probably thinks it went exactly according to plan. She probably thinks it worked out great.
Yeah, she got her revenge.
So she's literally got nothing left to lose, and it's in this moment where she finally, like, realizes who she is. And who she really is, like...
Never trust someone whose family you just slaughtered a week ago.
That's also a lesson to be learned. Yes.
If only Dany had figured that out sooner.
Oh, I think Mary Mazdur puts it in great perspective for her and teaches her this other great lesson. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? You saved my life. Do you have any idea what life? You destroyed my life. I got raped 4 times. You killed everybody that I was helping and this and that. And you want me to be grateful to you because you saved my life? My life is over. My life is gone.
Now, what is Dany going to do to her? That's the question. What do you do to someone whose life is over? She said she would behead her, but that wouldn't do anything. So what is she going to do?
Nah, I feel like Dany is...
I don't think she's
just
give
gonna
her
kill her.
A kiss and then smother her with a pillow.
No. It's a little weird that she was touching Drogo's pee-pee.
Yeah,
I get it. But it was still weird.
You're doing what you can.
You're trying to, like, wake him up.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, the whole under the sky, and that's how we conceived our baby, and I just... Was anyone else there? No one else was there.
No, everyone left her.
I mean, all
they has like 100 people left.
What were those 100 people doing while she was cuddling Hail Drogo?
Probably thinking how screwed they are. / what is she doing with that? I don't even know what you'd call him at this point. That salad. She tossed a vegetable salad.
Okay. You went there, didn't you?
Yeah. Just hit me. Yeah.
That just came right out of your mouth, and yeah.
It went in my brain, and I couldn't leave it there.
Oh God. I think it's really interesting that in the dream too, it starts out with the repetition of you don't want to wake the dragon to you, and then it just slowly gets shorter and shorter until it says wake the dragon.
Exactly. And once again, we're bringing up her nightmare involved Viserys pinching her nipples. Still weird, and I don't know why. That's like his go-to move. Don't make me use it. I will give you a purple nipple.
Targaryen closeness, I guess? I don't know.
But it's like, that's just... I feel like... I don't know.
Wildly inappropriate?
Yeah. It's like, how? And why? There's a million other ways to hurt someone than giving them a purple nurple. I don't know why that's his go-to move.
Maybe he liked it. Maybe it got him off, because
Maybe.
Danny's 14 at that point. She probably has little boobies.
Either way.
Gross.
Yeah.
Either way, gross.
Just picturing him as like a pro wrestler and like his finishing move is the purple nurple. Maybe if he had gone for the purple nurple on Drogo, he would still be here. He wouldn't have expected it. Just give him the quick purple nurple, he drops a pot of gold, and there you go.
Yeah, Drogo definitely probably would not have been ready for that.
Exactly. I know his blood riders were like holding him down, but just wiggle a little bit, get that arm out just enough, and then pinch and twist.
Anyway.
No one expects the purple nurple.
Oh God.
Except
unless you're
subscribe for more fighting advice.
Yeah, I guess purple nurple and something about avoid getting swords hooked on your bones.
I don't know what you're talking about. That worked out perfectly. You should definitely do that. The only reason he's alive is because our rock got hooked on his bones. Lesson number 1, go for the purple nurple. Lesson number 2, don't be afraid to use the bones.
Oh God. So the dream also then inspires Dany to cuddle her eggs.
Yes, which feels warm to her, but stone cold to Jorah.
And he gives her that look like, are you okay? They cold. Lady, they cold.
Look, you can't give her that look right now, Jorah. She's in this situation because of you.
Yeah, he's got guilt right now.
I get it though. It was a high stress situation.
It was a very stressful situation. His adrenaline.
He was losing blood. I don't even remember if the sword was still stuck in his hip or not. But
yeah, he had a weapon hooked on his bone.
Yeah. Pain can do crazy things.
Yes. Plus, there's all the screaming going on in the tent, and then Dany starts to give birth.
But I guess you could also say, yeah. I guess you could also say, in Dany's defense, is that her emotional pain led her to rash decisions as well, which is why they ended up in that situation.
I think she was also losing. It wasn't just about losing, Drogo in the emotional sense, but I think it was also losing Drogo in the political sense. She'd have no protection anymore.
Exactly.
So she would.
There's a lot.
Even though Jorah said, "Let's run away to a Shai. We'll be safe in a Shai."
If it was only the political sense, she probably would have taken that. But then there was also the emotional. I think it was a combination of everything. Just kind of led her to make those rash decisions.
Either way, lesson number 3: don't do the blood magic.
Yeah, the blood magic's not good.
Unless you know what you're doing.
That you haven't slaughtered their family in the last week.
Maybe do your research about blood magic first.
Yeah.
Know what you're doing.
Or don't trust the people whose family you just slaughtered in the last week. They do not like you, no matter what they say.
Yeah, God, that was pretty much it. Dany has like a acid trip prophecy dream.
Yes.
She finds out she gave birth to a dead dragon human baby.
Dead scaly boy.
Yeah.
Dead scaly batwing.
Although it's very interesting that she doesn't even think about Rhaego when she first wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
It takes her a while to process
it. She even states that, like, why did it take me so long to realize it? And she didn't seem, like, terribly upset about that.
I think it's because she already knew.
But yeah,
I think she already knew, because she has the dream where she sees him.
Yeah.
And he, like, bursts into flames.
Yeah.
Also, just the thought of that really quick. A very tall, Dothraki man with almond-shaped eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But his eyes are purple and his hair is blonde. Let's just picture that for a minute. So literally Khal Drogo with purple eyes and platinum blonde hair.
Yeah.
Just
basically Fabio.
Rhaego.
Yeah, it's hard to think. Like, just picture Jason Momoa with platinum blonde hair.
I know, that's what I mean.
Can't do it.
But I think
I wonder if there's a picture floating around out there of Jason Momoa, like, wearing Emilia Clarke's Daenerys wig.
There has to be. If there's one of Kit Harington, so there's gotta be one. Do you see all the pictures?
Like an SNL or something.
Did you see all the ones where Kit Harington, like, dresses up in everybody else's costumes?
He auditions for all the other parts. Yeah, it was like an SNL skit or something.
Yeah. My favorite thing that he did was the thing with Toothless. The little mini video of him and Toothless. Great. It was so funny.
If you haven't looked it up, look up Kit Harington and Toothless. That was great.
It's so cute. Way off topic. Sorry.
Another great actor, though.
Toothless is a dragon.
I think one of my
stillborn dragon, scaly baby.
One of my favorite auditions Kit Harington did was the one for Tyrion. Just comes waddling out on his knees.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know. I liked his Cersei too.
And speaking of Tyrion waddling out on his knees, he's waddling back into our lives in the next chapter.
Yeah,
where he gets to go see Tyrion and how he's been doing. And how he feels about his brother being captured. Because the last time was just the battle, right? Where his father was sipping out of the jeweled goblets. And gauntlet, Jesus. The Infinity Gauntlet.
It's a rough day if you need
Infinity Gauntlet just filled up with wine.
That's when you know it's been a rough day.